This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, 2023 ERP Trends and Predictions.
Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, 2023 ERP Trends and Predictions. Shawn Windle is one of our speakers for today. Shawn is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Shawn has over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. Rebekah McCabe is our guest joining us today. Rebekah is the senior digital marketing analyst on our team here at ERP Advisors Group. She is also the host of the wildly successful ERP Minute. On today's call, Shawn and Rebekah will examine industry trends from 2022 and share invaluable insights into the next wave of forward-thinking technology being developed by ERP vendors heading into 2023. Hello, Shawn and Rebekah. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, thanks
And
for having me.
welcome, to you too, Erica. Thanks for popping in today.
I am playing the part of Juliette Welch today,
Exactly.
or host of the ERP Advisor.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
well, so Shawn, last year we saw a lot of changes and advancements in the ERP space.
Yeah.
And now looking forward to this year, analysts and vendors are alike predicting a strong outlook for 2023. With that, would you start us off by sharing your thoughts on what to expect from ERP in 2023?
Sure. Oh boy. It's sort of I wouldn't say the best of times and the worst of times. It's like the good of times and the not terrible times, right? It's sort of like these ranges that we've been through for the last several years. You've covered so much of this on the ERP Minute.
Yeah.
But when I really kind of step back and look at where we've been in 2022, where we were, and look at 2023, it boils down to two things. So the first thing is my outlook for the future. And I've said this to several vendors and they look at me like I'm crazy, but I think the next 10 years, if I think a little bit even broader than 2023, will make the last 50 years of ERP look like nothing. I'll talk more about why in a minute here, but that's the first thing. And I think the second thing is the technology challenges and the execution of actually the vision, right? And the technologies that are available in the market and all the investment that's gone into solutions and technology providers and blah, 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 blah. It's getting harder and harder to actually deliver on that promise because there are shortages of good qualified people. The people that are really good are super busy. And so you get a lot of mediocre implementations and crappy implementations. I'm just going to say it. So that's why I'd say it's sort of like the best of times and the worst of times, that the promise has never been greater. The technology's never been as close for the transformation that organizations really want to have. Like, it's there and it's going to happen, but good luck finding the people to pull it off. So, at a high level, that's kind of what I'm foreseeing is, the execution, which is much more important than the promise of technology. Trying to couple these two things together and pulling it off is going to be more and more important. So I really hope for our listeners as they're going through this, all it takes is doing a couple demos with some vendors, right? And you're like, holy moly, this is going to change everything, right? Okay, well then, good luck getting it when you implement it. Right. It's the best of times. It's the worst of times. We'll talk a lot about more specifics, a lot of things happening with cloud. A lot of legacy customers are doing their migrations. There's a lot of cybersecurity attacks that are happening, and we've got to work through that. There's a lot of platform changes that are happening. Maybe you can talk about composable ERP systems later.
Yeah.
I know you love that topic, which is so cool. So we're seeing a lot of the promises there, a lot of supply chain efficiency things that are coming in. And of course, you can't finish any call about the future without talking about AI, machine learning, some of those trends too. So we'll get into some of the specifics, but that's what I would start with.
Great. Well, that sounds like a bit of a terrifying prospect if you're getting ready to start one of these projects.
Yes, that's true.
Well, maybe just as a quick look backward, what are some of the technology trends that you saw in 2022?
Um, we really did see a big shift. I think more willingness, if that's such a word, of legacy organizations, meaning for profit, everybody from food and bev, distribution, manufacturing, nonprofit, government agencies saying, "Whoa, this legacy technology is not working," and we actually positively, like without a doubt, have to do something about it. That was a huge trend that we saw. So a lot of legacy software migrations onto newer cloud-based solutions, or even the next iteration of on-premise solutions. You look at a company like Infor, and they're not only going with the cloud strategy, but they're also looking at their investments in on-prem software, right? Which all the cloud vendors like, how could you possibly do that? Blah, blah, blah. I get it. But you know what? There's a lot of organizations out there that aren't able to make that jump to the cloud for whatever reason. So I think that's been probably the biggest trend in 2022 that we saw very tactically with our business. But then I also think more strategically in 2022, we saw a lot of different kinds of software vendors really kind of come of age. Their cloud offerings have been more mature, or they've matured their offerings. There's more clarity. They're less cloudy. And so you see sort of like the big guys coming down with their strategies. You look at Oracle Cloud Fusion ERPs, picked up a ton of customers. SAP Rising program has made a huge difference. Workday continues to get a lot more traction with sort of course, the HCM at the larger organizations, but even the financials. So that's been like, wow, you've covered a ton of the growth and the earnings that these organizations have, which is just like, it's like more money than God. Like, it's crazy what these guys are doing. Are they in the business of printing money or software? I don't know. But the other side of it too is that we saw a lot of kind of smaller, sort of mid-sized software vendors, certainly like the Epicors, the Deltex, and some of those, even the Infor products. They have hundreds and hundreds of customers on their cloud offerings and good partners and that kind of thing. Even we closed a couple deals at the end of the year with a company called Uninet Decom. Is another one that are very micro vertical focused solutions that their cloud offerings are coming of age. They really understand the micro vertical focus. And so it's a great time for clients of all kinds, again, public, private, government agencies, whatever, to be looking at new solutions because they're there in the market. They're available. I actually remember in 2019, we said that 2020 was going to be the year for SMB ERP. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. Because there were a lot of investments in these really point solutions. You even covered even something as straightforward as Salesforce with their what was the auto solution? Auto commerce?
Their cloud commerce solutions.
Yeah. For automotive, right?
Yes.
Right. So I think the software vendors are like really getting, I don't know if it's more serious. I remember being back at JD Edwards in the early 2000s talking about micro vertical focused solutions, but those types of solutions. So not just, food and bev, but ingredients companies, or not just, professional service organizations, but like engineering companies. Like, these solutions are hot and they're great. And a customer can get the off the shelf solution, implement it, and get immediate benefit, right? That seems like it's simple, but with the more horizontal packages, meaning the applications that work across many, many industries, sometimes you don't get that micro vertical focused functionality from day one. Man, I am just on a roll here. I'm looking at Will. Am I being too boring here? Or we're good? Okay. But seriously, I love this because for my clients, for our clients who pay us, you pay for all this stuff, right? I love it because I know we can find solutions that are going to fit for them. And it wasn't always the case, even back in the day. NetSuite, was great for midsize, or Intact was great. But, now you look at like some of the things Intact has done for professional services. They're amazing. Like, you just you do a pretty simple implementation and boom, like you're there, right? And you're using it, you're getting value from it. Your software doesn't become like I got to watch the dating analogies because you are my wife after all, but it's like you start this relationship with the software and boom, day one, they're actually putting the toothpaste cap on the toothpaste, right? Like, they show up, they get it done versus having to wait year after year and hoping that the man does all the stuff he said he was going to do and he was, dating, but maybe not quite like that, but you get where I'm going. So I love that part. I think that's super good.
Just in context of what we've seen across other groups that we're part of and concerns about cybersecurity risk, if you're in an industry where you're hoping to get an industry specific solution, but they hadn't really migrated to the cloud products yet, you're still relegated to maintaining the security yourself with on-premise. And two of those clients you just mentioned who just got software products for their industry, now they're able to get something where they can outsource that functionality. I mean, even just that one part of your responsibility with your ERP to now let the vendor take it on because they have the bigger dollars for the data centers and for the servers, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, and even, if you think about it, Rebekah, I think you just reported on Oracle had another cloud region that opened, right?
Yeah.
What do you think that means to what Erica's saying about sort of hedging risk?
Yeah. So just in general, ERP is becoming more available to lots of different people. And that's part of what Oracle's strategy really is they're trying to extend that cloud network so that people can really cut down like low latency so that they can get into those solutions. And what Eric is saying, like the desire is there. More and more people don't want to handle that cybersecurity stuff. Hackers are becoming more and more sophisticated. They're able to get into these systems like they weren't able to before. And so companies like Oracle have a zillion people working on their cybersecurity every day. Yeah. And they have people that are specifically like there to work on their cybersecurity. And so that these smaller companies or mid-sized companies being able to shove off some of that responsibility so that they're not worried about it and they're not trying to fight off these hackers that frankly are probably more sophisticated than what they can handle. And Oracle opening up these new regions really gives them the opportunity to do that in a way that they feel more secure. I know even just going to the cloud and giving that responsibility, many customers are uncomfortable with that. Like it can be hard to give up the control that you have over those things. And so when you have a database or like a region that's closer to you, you feel a little more comfortable as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great point. And we had a couple clients over the last several years that got hit with cybersecurity attacks. And this stuff is scary. And in two cases, if I look at two different scenarios, no names, of course, but one of them had a pretty savvy IT department and had the right solutions in place to minimize the risk, but they still got hit. And I think they pulled in the feds. I don't remember if they paid the ransom or not. I can't remember, but they didn't need to, but they didn't want the data to be released. And so it was one of those situations, right? So they had all the mitigations in place.
And they had insurance too.
And they had the insurance, but another one wasn't set up well, didn't have the sophistication around sort of cybersecurity kind of risks and mitigations. And I would even say they tended to be a little bit more of a legacy, kind of a traditional business. And those are the folks that are the most at risk, frankly. You think you're not a big target if you're a $100 million distributor, out of wherever, Kansas or someplace, right? Like nobody cares. They actually do. So I think to both of your points, I love that our clients get sort of this added benefit. And not only do they get this feature function set that becomes their enterprise mind and they can control and understand what's happening throughout the business, blah, 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 all the normal ERP stuff, but they also get more secure systems because they have a staff of cybersecurity specialists. They're constant, and they have SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports that they have to do and compliance that they have to meet. So they've got, people trying to penetrate into their premise, physically, right? Like there was a story a couple of years ago about one of the it's called pen testing or penetration testing. One of the firms went out and actually got their guys on site and were able to like get in a data center or something. And the police came and like put those guys in jail. Wow. And they're like, whoa, like we're getting paid to do this. Like, that's fine. We'll find out in the morning. It's like getting stuck as a kid, right? Like you got to spend the night in jail, and they did, right? But then it turned out, no, they were doing it on behalf of their clients. So, software vendors, and I love seeing they're being willing to take on that responsibility. And there's different levels with each of the organizations we've worked with, but it's a huge benefit, unequivocally.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely, I would imagine, if you get your system off of the on-premise server and into the new vendor's data center, that's got to be a huge peace of mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rebekah, so what about you? What are some of the market trends that you saw in 2022? This is the end of your first year at ERP Advisors. You've been our ERP Minute Anchorwoman for dozens of episodes, been scouring all the news, worthwhile reporting for almost a full year now. So what are kind of your takeaways from the year?
Yeah, lots and lots of stuff happened in the market, and Shawn kind of touched on some of it already, but I can go a little bit deeper. And I have my notes here because I don't want to forget any of these
there's so
crazy things
much.
that happened over the course of the year. And I know Shawn and I have talked about this. A big thing that we saw just was the investments. Like so much money is being poured into ERPs and the advancement of software, and lots of private equity firms are also going into the space and acquiring these smaller solutions that they're going to be able to build up and offer for those solutions for those customers and really scale those solutions in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do on their own. And on the same note, you see these vendors acquiring smaller solutions that we see acquisitions every week. Shawn and I, when we review when we review the news, and these are a lot of different solutions that are going to be in micro verticals that the vendors couldn't have gone into on their own. They could have, but it would have just been more resources. And I think they're really realizing that yeah, we can innovate and that's great. And we're continuing to innovate, but we're not going to be able to break into these micro vertical solutions on our own or these markets. And so we really need to have these solutions that are already building themselves or already creating a name for themselves and go into those markets so that we can provide value to these customers that we weren't able to before. And even what Shawn was saying, that they're kind of moving down in the tiers, some of these bigger solutions are able to offer to people that they weren't able to before. And that's really awesome to see ERP just becoming more and more available to these clients. And in general, we're also seeing a lot of partnerships, more specialized partnerships, strategic partnerships that we weren't seeing before. The most recent example was Microsoft with one of their clients. And you think about it and you're like, oh, they're buying software from them. What is this, just another advertisement for, oh, we're getting new clients? Because you see those all the time, but it wasn't. Like, they're mutually beneficial. And you're seeing Microsoft go in there and be like, well, we'll give you this much support for this in this contract, but then you're also going to help us scale our solutions in a way that we weren't able to do before. And that's just a super unique thing that I think we're going to see into 2023 is more and more of these vendors partnering strategically with their clients or with these other organizations that are going to be able to help them grow and advance in ways that they weren't able to before or weren't imagining before. And so that's a really exciting thing to see. And coming back to what Shawn was saying as well about some supply chain issues, talent shortages, we also saw a lot of vendors investing in not just their technology, but also their support networks and what they were able to bring to the market. And I think right now that it's necessary in order to differentiate yourself. You can't just be providing these great products. If no one likes working with your team, you're not going to get customers. And if no one sees the value in what you're bringing beyond, well, yeah, I'll get on the system, but then I'm going to have a terrible time actually implementing it or getting through things. They don't want to see that. And you see companies like Acumatica really investing in their partnership networks and making sure that they can deliver value to their customers beyond just what their software is offering. And you also see a lot of companies like Oracle and NetSuite and also SAP who are investing in these programs. I know that Oracle was investing in a program in order to kind of fill that gap between financial professionals and how can they educate those financial professionals more to be in those spaces. And along the same lines, NetSuite was investing in their consulting network in order to provide more and more people who could really implement their solutions in effective ways. And SAP saw the need to create a developer network where they were able to really teach the next generation of developers to create better, more and more solutions. And in a time where we're having these supply chain issues and talent shortages, the technology being there is becoming more and more important, because if it's not there, you see, you're not going to be able to fill that and companies are going to struggle.
Yeah. Even internationally too. I think if I could add, I know we covered a couple things, different programs, maybe Click from a reporting and analytics side, and maybe Deltek also. It seemed like there were a couple other companies that were investing in some of these international development, really looking at other populations around the world, like India, and putting money into like that, the talent shortage, right? Which I don't think that's ever going to change. I really don't. I was chatting with a gentleman who had an accounting firm, got bought by an international firm. Finally, they were like the last firm holding out, right? It's like that little guy and they got all the big guys around him and like, okay, fine. Right. And he said something I'll never forget. He did say, in 10 years, like our world's going to be totally different as auditors. And he said, yours is probably too. The way you advise today versus in 10 years, it's going to be totally different. He's spot on.
Mhm.
Even the way we do implementations of ERP today are so manual and so driven and determined by, having the best resources to do it. But I think some of these other vendors, we see this, like you mentioned with Acumatica. I think some of the Microsoft vendors, I think NetSuite too, are trying to sort of standardize these processes, the implementation process.
Mhm.
Now they can go to the other extreme. And then we get those calls. Those are fun.
Yeah.
I paid for an implementation and I got blah. Like, oh boy. Well, okay, you got what you paid for. It's like buying cheap furniture, right? But I couldn't agree with you anymore that the investment and the responsibility, I think, that the software vendors are taking has never been higher.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just saying, you look at some of these folks now, they're also making some major changes. Literally yesterday, I saw in the news about Salesforce making some cuts. I think some other vendors have as well. It's not just Salesforce, but one could even offer, maybe there was just opportunity to make some changes despite the economy. I don't know the situation there. But, you look at the value of these organizations and it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Again, you think of the earnings reports and everything. So the investment, I loved seeing that this year. And maybe we just had our eyes on it more, frankly, because you were here and really paying attention to the news. Maybe it's always been like that. But in my career of 27 years or some crazy amount of time, I don't remember the vendors putting as much back into the market and into just the public as they did.
Yeah. And I mean, coming to that point, like quarter to quarter, you were seeing vendors see growth year over year, 10 to 20%, some of them even more than that, which is insane when you hear all these rumors and whispers about economic downturn and how everything's going in a direction that we don't want it to be going. And when you see the vendors are having all of this success, you're like, oh, something must be happening. And maybe that has to do with the fact that these companies are investing in the technology because they have to advance their company. They have to go in that direction or they're going to fall behind. But some of those numbers were just incredible to see,
Staggering.
even quarter to quarter. Yeah.
Exactly.
Staggering.
Well, if you each had to pick a theme for the coming year for ERP, Shawn, what would your pick for the theme for the coming year be?
Boy, I don't remember that question being on our list, but let's see what comes out.
Okay.
I think it was, but I certainly didn't think of it. So when I think about in the trenches work, closing deals last week and the last quarter, and then starting new needs processes, selection processes. We just kicked off an implementation today. If I look down in the trenches, but then I think super high level, about leadership changes, even like at Workday, we just covered that, right? With some of the software vendors and the macroeconomic trends that I'm seeing. And we're actually going to be doing quite a few collaborations with different vendors this year. We started a little bit last year, but Rebekah's really got that line in. And we're super excited for that. We're still independent objective, but we're excited to be able to bring the viewpoints in from these different vendors that we've worked with through our trusted advisor. So look forward to that. That'll be good. So we'll learn more, I think, more tactically from them. You're going to a conference in a couple of weeks as well. I think we're going to hit the Acumatica conference as well this month. So we'll see there. But the long story short is what economic downturn?
Yeah.
I think that's the trend. I really do. I saw another phrase yesterday, it's not what was it? Like a slow economy, like
slow
a
session or
slow session. Yeah.
something like that.
Something like that. Right. Not a recession, but it's also not like a bullish year. And we got all the political stuff going on. We got still a lot of COVID cases throughout the world. But I just think it's going to be, like what recession? Like, I just think from an enterprise software perspective, 2020 was the wake-up call for all organizations throughout the world with their technology, the state of their technology. Everybody had to stop and, kind of confront whatever they could get away with if they were too busy to before. Like, oh my gosh, this is what we really have. Wow. I can't think of I think the hospitals and the medical folks had to go through that too, right? Like, how many people can we service at one time? Those are terrible things to have to look at, right? For sure. But in the technology space, in my career, we had the tech bubble burst. We had
2020 or
20,
1999.
2000, way back. Yeah. Then we had sort of the economic downturn in 2008 and yada, yada. But, technology just kept on kind of, even though the tech bubble burst then, it's really didn't. I mean, it's just gone more and more. Organizations have fewer employees. They rely more on technology, yada, yada. Right. But I really feel like, there's a broader understanding. I mean, you could offer this, right? Because you talk to every single one of our prospects, that you have companies and organizations calling you today that probably wouldn't have several years ago. They wouldn't have cared, or they wouldn't have had the sophistication or the knowledge that they even needed to change. But doesn't it seem like you're getting more and more organizations like, look, we know we need to change? Like that, I think, is the big trend. What do you think?
I would say if I just sort of scan across the prospects I've been meeting with routinely, they're not usually like the ones already on like maybe a smaller tier 3, tier 2 application, and we're looking to go really big.
Mhm.
They're on something they've been on for 15 or 20 years, the not go forward version of whichever vendor, doesn't even matter which one. And they have, their business has changed a lot. They've grown, they've acquired, there may be sometimes magnitudes bigger, and somehow they've been coping. But they are just to the point, the ones I'm talking to anyway, they're just to the point of we do have to do something. And we know this is hard. And even when we just talked to yesterday, they had to abandon the vendor's upgrade path to the cloud because it just wasn't working.
Yep.
So yeah, I would say there's probably in any lifespan, there has to be a lot of companies still on an old legacy product that's not been updated in a long time. And, we're just catching those ones as they show up, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's my theme for 2023 for enterprise software, right? Other sectors that you got to talk to somebody else, right? But for this sector, it's like, what recession, right? We even talked to a software vendor recently. We did a little video for them and sort of said, yeah, there's challenges. But there's always challenges. But as a software vendor, if you focus on what's the real problems that they're encountering for real, don't mock them up, don't make them up, don't like say, oh, well, most customers blah. Like, no, what are you really struggling with? Oh, we're dying. We can't get invoices out that fast, or our close process takes forever, or we're losing orders because we're disorganized on the manufacturing floor. Whatever those real things are, it doesn't take a lot to substantiate enough benefits monetarily to substantiate, I should say, the cost of a software solution. It just doesn't. So I think that solution focused, I think we'll get through it, and we'll all say, what was that recession all about?
Makes sense. And what about you, Rebekah? Any theme that you have for the coming year that based on what you've seen and what's coming?
Yeah, I think I have this unique view of the market where I get to see a lot of the positive stuff and just all the great things that are coming from the vendors. And so from my perspective, what I was really thinking for 2023 was that the general availability of ERP to people that it just wasn't available to before. You see lots of these, like we had talked about previously, more and more like smaller scale solutions coming up, micro vertical solutions that weren't there before. And so there are going to be lots of customers who have access to those things. And even what Shawn was saying, that you have prospects coming to you that wouldn't have been sophisticated enough years before to do it. And now they have to. The vendors are adjusting to that and providing those solutions. And you even see it in their philanthropic efforts where some of these larger companies are expanding into countries and cities that wouldn't have previously had the technology that we have. And it's not on the same scale as what we're seeing in these larger scale companies, or here in the US or even in Europe, where a lot of these vendors are expanding. It's smaller scale, just availability to the internet or other technology. And it's really awesome to see that these solutions are becoming more readily available and easier to use with low latency, low code, those kind of things that, no code, BI, those kind of things that customers just wouldn't have been able to use before, but they didn't have the resources, and vendors are making it a lot easier for clients to get that.
I would just latch onto that, because I do meet with the prospects, and sometimes we might be too big for a company that's looking to change to get into an ERP product. We're a little bit of a luxury on top of buying software and an implementation. But I think that some of the vendors out there that are more emerging actually are more affordable for a smaller mid-market company, or even just a small company, to get out of the manual processes of spreadsheets and QuickBooks and a disjointed CRM or something like that, and they can get into an Acumatica or an Intact, and it's actually going to improve the business a lot. But it's not like where if you go up to the full tier 2, there's no way a $10 million company wants to spend what it takes to get into maybe some of the bigger products.
And Shawn knows I was going to bring this up at some point, but like the platform as a service, composable ERP, I think that also has a lot to do with it. And some people might disagree with me, but I think the market's going towards platform as a service and being able to like pull those different solutions, easily integrate them, easily bring them into these companies. And I think of like Salesforce has their platform as a service that has a lot of smaller ERPs that people may not even be thinking of. You pull up their catalog and you're overwhelmed. You're like, wow, A through Z, there's a zillion solutions out there. And I think because they're able to offer that, developers are able to get onto that platform and build these solutions. That also has a lot to do with the ability for these smaller companies to break into the ERP market.
Well, good. Well, so I'm sure what some of our listeners are probably dying to know is what do you predict for each of the vendors coming into the new year? Like, let's do the run through of A to Z, speaking of which. Acumatica to, I don't know who's the end in the alphabet.
Workday.
Workday, probably.
Yeah.
Unet, Workday.
Sure.
Unifor.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a quick rundown. So who's the first vendor?
Oh, I don't.
Acumatica, I think, right?
Yeah. Acumatica.
Okay.
First.
Great traction, really great innovation. It's all great. We've got one of our private equity clients mentioned that I say that a lot. It's kind of true. I kind of put that out there so that it goes great. It's like, it's going to be great. No, but I think their partners they've made the transition over to Acumatica. They've got a lot of specialty. I love that the partners still get paid based on their customers' satisfaction. The solution's priced well. It can grow with an organization. There's still some considerations about, at that $500 million mark or more, are you going to outgrow that solution? And I think there'll be more customers that start pushing that, and we'll find out about it. But I expect to continue to see big growth with Acumatica for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Rebekah, do you have
Mine
there?
I do have the list here. Which you
Okay.
Yes.
Why don't you can prompt? What is the next one? I can't think if there's a B.
Yeah,
C.
the next one we're going into is Epicor.
Cool. So I think Epicor is really interesting too, right? We have several clients right now that are running on legacy Epicor projects or products that are also being enhanced. And I think their strategy going forward is more clear. Profit 21, Kinetic, a lot of Kinetic, but there's still BizTrack and there's still some other things kind of sitting out there that are very micro vertical focused. Good investment. I think probably Epicor, from doing projects with them for multiple decades, I think they're more financially strong now than they have ever been. We're seeing they're buying best of breed solutions, coupling them into their overall platform. It's always fun to talk to the people that were at the best of breed vendors. Like I talked to a couple at the Epicor conference, and remember, I was at JD Edwards when it got bought by PeopleSoft. So, you get a little jaded after you've been through those acquisitions. But anyway, like it's a breath of fresh air of different viewpoints that I think Epicor is bringing in with some of these newer resources that they have too. So I think they're good for growth. I think they just hit the $1 billion mark too, a major benchmark. In terms of no, that's not right. I can't remember what the number was, but they hit a major recurring revenue number, which again, just shows they're going to be a good formidable vendor for, again, I think more micro vertical kind of stuff. We talked to somebody yesterday who was very interested in Profit 21, right? And it, dominates their industry group and a distribution group that they're a part of. So I think good things happening there for sure.
Yeah, and I know earlier in the year they invested in that warehouse management solution and some more like later on in the year professional services, and so we're seeing some more from them. I know I personally associate Epicor with automotive, but I'm seeing that they're expanding more into those industries as well, or those different solutions. The next guy we have on the list is Infor.
Infor is a very interesting organization. I'm still trying to figure it out. Because things changed. They're one of the very few major software vendors that is privately held. It makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference. So you have, an ownership group or two brothers, right? The Koch brothers and many others, I'm sure, within that organization, but that are driving the strategy, not just from maximize shareholder profit or, private equity kind of, grow it and then have some kind of liquidity event. But like, the Coke industry uses a ton of Infor, right? And they're looking at their own legacy solutions, the rest of their legacy customers that are on some great products that they don't want to go to cloud. So how do they invest in those on-prem solutions, but then offer a cloud migration as well as the cloud suite solutions, which are pure cloud solutions. So they're kind of really trying to do both. And it's one of the few vendors that is doing that and proud of it and has some momentum behind that. So I think I like that because, again, I think it's focused on what's best for the customer. And I think if you have that focus as an enterprise software vendor, you're going to win. But we have a couple clients that are legacy LN, their prospects are legacy LN or bond customers that are going through, should we migrate? Should we not? We're not sure what to do. So we'll go through those processes this year and take a closer look at that. But I like that multi-pronged strategy. And it does show the next evolution of cloud, which is maybe you don't need cloud, right? So what can you offer something that is viable? And I think Infor is doing that. Again, Cloud Suite, I think is getting more and more and more customers by the day. The distribution, the industrial or distribution enterprise and some of the other bigger products are still continuing to make a lot of ground, and good partners. A lot of folks that have been in the industry for a long time still supporting those products.
Yeah. And do you think like some of those solutions too, that they're on-prem? I know that they had a lot of expansion into Southeast Asia, some of those countries over there, Japan. Do you think that that's associated with it as well, that they're trying to break into those markets? I'm not sure what those markets look like.
Yeah, I do. And they're ripe for additional competitors to come into those markets. We facilitated a selection in Malaysia right at the end of the year, and it was really interesting to dive in on what solutions were the most prominent. SAP, of course. But I do think there's some more capabilities that Infor specifically can provide internationally.
Yeah. Next is IFS.
IFS, we're engaged more with IFS now than we've ever been. I think they're I can't remember that acquisition that they made. That wasn't they didn't really announce that with the oil and gas thing.
No, they didn't.
But you did.
I did announce it. Thank you to our contacts over there.
That's right. Yeah, we had a nice lead there. I think IFS is just going to go more micro vertical focused, which is super smart. A lot of enterprise asset management for sure. Utilities, larger asset heavy intensive kind of industries, which makes a ton of sense. We're evaluating them right now for a renewable energy company, for a wind farm and solar farms. So I think they're kind of getting more North American focused also. I think they've made some strategic hires and kind of working through building out sort of the North American presence. But internationally, it's a very successful firm. But I think they're going to become more and more known in that particular area around those industries, and I think they'll be more successful with that.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have Microsoft.
So Microsoft is trying to put us out of business. And that's fine. Not really. I got to figure that part out later. But, their pricing strategy on the software side is very simple and straightforward, which is fantastic. It's so much easier, except with the smaller solution. So they have Business Central, and then they have finance and operations, or finance and supply chain management, et cetera, right? The big and the little one, as well as CRM or customer experience and field services, et cetera. But we're looking at them with an international company right now. Partners are huge in the Microsoft channel, unequivocally. Like, you're going to make a decision for Microsoft usually when the IT department says, oh, we use Microsoft throughout the organization. We run Teams, we do a bunch of back office stuff with our Windows servers, our old stuff, or 365 or Office 360, Office
DevOps
360,
and Azure,
DevOps, Azure. We put our stuff up in the cloud. So we want to go Microsoft for ERP, which makes a ton of sense. But both solutions they have strengths, they have weaknesses. Again, the pricing is simple. That's why I said what I did about us. But the implementations are still intricate. The implementation for finance and operations is a very tricky process. We had a client that implemented last year, and it was hard. It was a really, really hard lift. So you got to have people that are there to support the implementation. You do for everybody, but you really do for F&O. I think every F&O partner I know, they're really, really good partners, would say the same thing. Like you got to have people at the client side that are ready to do this. If you don't, call us, we can help. But even that's for us, it's hard. Business Central is good for basic sort of ERP kind of distribution, inventory, accounting, and projects. But then you start to go out beyond that. You're relying on a lot of best of breed solutions. NetSuite's kind of the same way too. But you got to be careful of that, because then the price starts to go up, the complexity starts to go up. But the Teams won. I really think Teams won. I mean, we still use Zoom, but we're like the last people, it seems like, with our customers. They're like, why are you on
I think all
Zoom?
the software companies still use Zoom.
It's true, right? Especially the ones that own ownership in Zoom. But that whole model of being Microsoft based, I was on an industry call a couple of weeks ago. I think you joined me for that one, right? And across the board, everybody thought the enterprise software winner for 2023 was Microsoft. I, of course, gave a different opinion just to make it interesting. But I do think Microsoft's very well positioned. Again, I think they figured out their partner channel finally. There's been a lot of evolution with that, a lot of global players for sure. But just be careful. It's intricate implementations, either BC or F&O.
Right. Do you think they're going to continue to expand on those mid-market solutions? I know you were mentioning you get into those best of breeds. Do you think that that's going to be a trend in 2023 for them?
I do. I mean, even you look at field services and you look at some of the other apps that you've covered, some of the supply chain things. Thank you to our contacts out there at Microsoft that send us the news. We do pay attention to you.
Yes.
But there's a lot of best of breed solutions that they're investing in as well. Good call.
Awesome. And then we have NetSuite.
Yep. So NetSuite, NetSuite is sort of like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, and the only ones I could think of are a little probably inappropriate. But if you can sell a software product to a smaller company and just get in there, right? Give them a free implementation, and they'll be fine. And then they're just going to stay on the software and just, grow, and their recurring revenue with you is going to grow as you get bigger and bigger. You've had a lot of calls from customers this year on the implementation side of NetSuite where they've struggled, right? Am I right?
Yeah. You get the I didn't know I was getting into it.
Exactly. And that's a smaller client, usually maybe hasn't been through it before. There was a real estate company here in Colorado that called us, and we're like, you did what? And the pricing made sense, and it was probably the right solution, but just the effort required to get into that particular product is pretty good. It's not easy.
It's not like, if you're, especially, I even just fielded a call last week from a contact of ours where they needed a temporary solution for a purchase they were doing, and they had to get out of the source system and had to set up a, system for accounting and orders like right away for their distribution company they were buying. They had to get out of the system where they were buying it from, right? And they just needed time to get their new ERP reestablished. So they wanted something temporary, and he was asking me about buying NetSuite. I was like, you mean to have it set up in 30 days from now and to be able to do orders and to be able to do accounting? And you can't, literally, you just can't. It's not like setting up QuickBooks. So sometimes I do run into prospects that think, I'm like, okay, you only have 3 people in your company. You're going to be drowning in that.
Right.
Don't do it.
Right. And that's, I think we're kind of coming out of that phase. Acumatica's run into that a little bit too this year, but they've been responding and handling it, which is amazing. That's the key thing, right? Customers can be a little bit dangerous when they think they're ready for something, but it's just too big. I think that's the bottom line.
But on the other side of the spectrum, the other prospects I meet with that are in the size of right strike range for NetSuite, they already know about it. Like their name recognition and the appropriateness for their prospects that are looking at it, like they're just dialing it right in, like they're finding their prospects. And so it used to be when I first started with you a long time ago, many of your clients really hadn't even heard of NetSuite. It's true. And now, like, they already come to us already knowing, well, I've already looked at NetSuite and the other 2 or 3 that they for their industry.
Yep.
So.
And frankly, we've closed a lot of NetSuite deals. We've just went live with NetSuite on 3 different customers here, and still going through some of the woes and tribulations of all that.
One more coming.
One more coming. And so we really do like that product for sure. We've had a lot of successes with it. We've had a lot of customers that are happy with it. but it's Oracle has, I think, looked at how do we position this thing, right? Do we just hire a bunch of people out of college to make a ton of calls to everybody in the world about how wonderful NetSuite is and try to get it out there? Like, whatever. And I think they've been through that. I'm working with our team is working with a lot of salespeople that started in that BDR program that Oracle did. And these are some of the best salespeople we're working with. So they're great qualified people. But it's one of those products that, and the growth, continues to just be astronomical. One could say in the mid-market, they won. The mid-market has been won by NetSuite. There are other options. Unequivocally, we've done deals with everybody. Everybody from SAP to teeny tiny organizations. But just like Erica said, I think from a brand recognition, from an acceptance level, you talk to your colleagues, we're going to go public or we're going to get bought by PE or whatever. The public markets love that you're not on QuickBooks, or they don't love you're on QuickBooks. They love you're on NetSuite. And the PE firms have deals with NetSuite where they're getting their portfolio companies onto NetSuite. So there's still lots of competition and still lots of environments that don't make sense to go with that product. But I think overall, they've done a really good job of getting the solution out there. And the other thing too is, which I hate hearing about the failed implementations, because we know like 40 companies that implement NetSuite really, really well. So yeah, you might spend a little more money than you thought you were, but I don't care. I really don't care. I get to say this. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. I don't care if you have to spend $100,000 if you're a smaller company to put in the software. You are going to save 2 people at least hiring in the future by putting in the software. Done. Like there's your business case. Move on, right? Mm-hmm. And there are lots and lots and lots of great organizations that implement that software. We know a lot of them. They do a great job. So I continue to be very bullish on that product.
Yeah. And of course, we can't talk about NetSuite without talking about Oracle.
Yeah, we're doing more with Oracle Cloud Fusion than we ever have. I think our clients, they're getting more sophisticated. They get more international needs. They get more sort of, transactions, and it just gets bigger, especially around financials. Oracle's the masters. They always have been. And so, we're doing many, many, many more deals with them. They've proven the solution, 4, 5, 6 years ago. I don't know if it was really quite there in terms of Oracle Cloud Fusion ERP. There's also HCM. There's a bunch of other stuff, transportation management, et cetera, et cetera. But we do see that product becoming more and more viable for the legacy Oracle customers, right? Of JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, Oracle E-Business Suite. That even JD Edwards World and One World and that they need a migration path. And even at Oracle conference this year, a lot more customers are doing something with the Oracle Cloud solutions. And I think Oracle's gotten more savvy that a customer may take HCM and that's it for now, So I think they're figuring that out. You cover this. I've told lots of people this. I love that Oracle owns literally from the ground, like literally the ground through the building, through the security, through the heating and cooling and blah, 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 to the servers and their systems. They have the Oracle Cloud infrastructure that runs these servers, that runs their applications. Now they got cybersecurity. They got bots all over the place protecting them. I don't think anybody else can do that, right? Microsoft has a lot of other customers other than themselves and their ERP solutions, So it's interesting that I think Oracle still has a long-term play there that a lot of other vendors don't. And I really am careful about the words that I share on these conferences. I always say good things about everybody. If you want to know the bad stuff, you have to call us. But I will say that I think in the long run, the risks of enterprise software are just going just through the roof. The insurance companies I was reading are going to stop covering cybersecurity attacks. I would too if I was an insurance company. There's no way that a company knows what to do.
I think they just jack the prices up, but in the interim, they just jack the prices up where it's like so expensive.
Right.
Because
it's real, right? So the risks are happening. So, again, I love what Oracle's doing with taking more and more and more responsibility for the problems that their clients have and having real solutions that are easy to confront.
Yeah. We have a few more, so we'll try to get through these.
Yeah.
So Sage is the next one.
So Sage is, I think, going through sort of a transition also. you've got sort of the Sage X3 product, you have Intact, then you have the legacy products too, Sage 100, 200, 300, 300C, 100C, 300 construction, 500. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in there, right? Sage Fixed Asset Systems, right? They've got this great legacy portfolio of customers, and the attention on upgrading them, I think is still there. I think they're still doing pretty good. I will tell you, with sort of on the manufacturing side, it's a little tricky to figure out where they're going to end up. I'm just going to say it. So I think there's good scenarios where you would go with an X3. I think there's others you wouldn't. So you just need to evaluate that product cautiously, because I do think it's a good product, especially for process and some other industries for sure. And then the Intact side, I think we've really taken some time as a firm to really get back in connection with the Intact folks and understand, in the nonprofit space and software and services, that these are areas that they serve really well. And, even I think we're in a couple deals right now with Intact, and, the product is a bit simpler than probably its biggest competitor. I'll just say it is NetSuite, right? But it offers more advanced functionality than like a Microsoft. And so it's a really good product for evolving companies. They're growing, they're expanding. They're also, I think you covered this, about some construction work that they're doing and
manufacturing. They're going into France, and then you also see payroll in the UK and the US. So they're extending, they're already in the US and they're extending some of those capabilities, but we see them really growing in Europe right now.
Yep. So a lot of good growth there too. And they got a lot of resources that they can put into that product.
I would just mention, because I meet with prospects who are on a legacy Sage product, and they've been told probably by their VAR, well, you can move to Intact or you can move to X3. And they're kind of like, I don't really think that either of those work for me. So it is just like, because it's under the Sage umbrella, doesn't mean that the flagship product is a good replacement for your legacy one. It's just something to be wary of.
Yeah. And Sage can get a little confusing. They went through a big rebranding this year. That was something that we also covered. And thank you to our contacts over there who are helping us go through some of that as well. And it can be confusing to navigate. So I can totally see that. And that's also why we're putting out some more content about Sage, so that we can clarify some of those things as well. Salesforce.
Salesforce.
Big year.
Yeah. Big year. Yeah. I think they overtook SAP as the most valuable enterprise software vendor, didn't they?
Yeah.
Annual revenue.
Yeah. Annual revenue went over.
That's pretty huge. Yeah. Yeah. Good innovative products coming out. They're going through a little bit of a kind of a reduction in personnel right now. I mean, it's always tough for everybody to go through. I've been through that. We've all kind of been through that. But I think health-wise is still very strong, very, very profitable company. And I always kind of want to, say, guys, you got a lot of money. What are you doing with it? Like, for real, like, what kind of investments can you make in new products? And boom, the automotive solution comes out, and they are putting more money into their partner channel too, which I think is great, making their partners stronger, supporting the partners, the good partners that need that, extra capital to keep the great resources in that. We really went very deep this year on their ERP solutions. Thanks for all the work everybody here did for that. So that we had a better feel for, between Financial Force and Accounting Seed, and even Rootstock, like, where are those products used? Definitely Salesforce CRM environment and those products. So I just think they've got, more money than God. So it's like, okay, let's see what you guys can do. And that's saying a lot, but I think they can make a lot more investments even in the ERP side.
Yeah, definitely. And then SAP on that same note.
Yeah. SAP came down market for real over the last 2 years, for sure. Implementation partners still struggling a little bit. But I think they're more right sizing their implementations. I think going into 2023, the public cloud, SAP S/4HANA, public cloud, SAP S/4HANA, private cloud, sort of working through when do you do which, and what partners figuring out when do you do what. We got to work through all that crap. I want to be done with those discussions. I don't want to be worried about putting my client on public cloud and then they want a customization that isn't possible. You just made me look like a freaking idiot, and I hate that, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that confusion. But I understand we're still working through these are major changes that SAP is working through. Just do it, right? Let's get through it and let's move on, so that you can't beat that product for even for the client I mentioned earlier. And out of Malaysia, that we're going SAP. We looked at a couple other things, but it was the right solution for them because the partner channels are so strong around the world that you have the medium-sized partners, the big size, the international partners. You got a lot of resources that know that solution. And it really does fit well for these industries that it's always done well for manufacturing, distribution, but a bunch of other stuff, financial services. So I think SAP, the trends I see there are really, really good for 2023. I think they're going to continue to sort of, kludge, make it a little more simple for folks to get into this thing and make it real, to get in an effective implementation, because we still have a lot of folks that come to us that say, I'm not going to touch that thing with a 10-foot pole because I was part of a project 10 years ago and it went $100 million over budget. Okay, well, how many of those really happened? Like, stop it. Like, let's be real here. But the wins and hearing the success is something I'm really looking forward to in 2023.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. We're in a new era where it's not just about the technology anymore. It still is, but it's so much more than that.
Yep.
Unit 4.
Yeah. So Unit 4, we've done some good collaborations with them this year. And I think they're getting more clear on their North American strategy, professional services, nonprofit areas, human capital kind of environments. And, have great kind of a understanding of global markets and global implementations, which is a differentiator for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they'll probably kind of work through some leadership stuff through the North American practices and kind of get established. We've done some work with those folks too. And they're great. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one firm we'll see a lot more growth with this year.
Awesome. And our last one is Workday.
Yeah. So Workday, the nicest salespeople ever, by the way. Am I right? I mean, come on, they're the best. They're great. But again, HCM, financials, I feel like we're right back where we were this summer talking about these vendors.
Yes.
You should listen to what we said about the summer as the rear view, but going forward view, little bit of leadership changes coming up for sure. I think that'll be healthy for them. And I'm just trying to think through. I think the financial side's definitely continuing to get more traction. We are continuing to bring them in for deals on that side as well as HCM. It is still the premium product. We just worked through an international organization that was doing a HCM selection, and the pricing was higher for Workday, but you can justify it. It's the thing that I think Workday will really dial in 2023 is what's the incremental value of their solution over another automation solution for HCM, like specifically best, use cases from prior customers, what makes it different in that. And I don't know, what just comes to me right now is I think something major is going to happen with that firm in 2023. They got a lot of money, a lot of growth. You covered their last earnings call again. And it's like, what are you guys going to do? Like you got the HCM side, finance, they bought, Adaptive several years ago. I think that was helpful. They're going to Adaptive customers and trying to sell them Workday financials, which I think is smart. So I think something kind of magical is going to come from that firm this next year.
They also opened the new headquarters in Europe. That was middle of the year.
Yep.
So it might have been mixed in with some of those, but big things. I agree. Yeah, that's our list, Eric.
Those are
Oh
some
my
of the big
gosh.
ones. I know.
Fun.
That's a lot.
It is. It was all up there. Thankfully.
Well, and we do have on our website quite the rundown of all those vendors in detail, their partner channels, how they win deals, why they win deals, what industries they're good for. So I'm sure all those points are still germane. And if our listeners need any more information, you can go to our top ERP vendors on the website to find out more.
Oh, sure.
Cool.
We got some questions. Yeah, let's do it.
So Deborah asked, are you seeing software you're going more
Not really. No. If you think about, so I think the question was specifically around kind of the payment method for just sort of funding the implementation. Is that right? Kind of around that model. We did have a vendor recently who said, okay, we estimate the project is going to be $500,000 to implement. we're going to divide that by 12 and we're going to bill you, whatever equal payments for a year. And that was kind of interesting, but it still was, well, but if there's change orders, you're going to pay for that. Well, what if we don't need all those services, right? So I think what we'll see in 2023 is, I think you'll see more fixed fee implementations, which are a little dangerous. So you got to be careful of that. But I think again, kind of with the trends we've been talking about, I think the implementation partners are trying, and even the software vendors who have pro service groups are trying to make things, their implementations more approachable. And so they're definitely willing to do financing. That's not even a dirty little secret. And there's firms in the market. We work with a couple that will work with you to finance your implementation so that you can have standard payments that what they're going to be, which is a real nice option for customers that want to know what their payments are. But I do think the vendors will get a little bit more creative with their sort of fees, the implementation partners for sure, software vendors on their professional services. So I could see some major changes there.
And then you might have to.
Yep.
Mark asked, you mentioned implementation resources being scarce, so that you could pay for recession.
So the question was implementation resources being scarce even in recession. Absolutely. And we know that because we're hiring people also like all the time. I think we're going to end up hiring or interviewing 40 people this week.
Something like that.
Yeah, literally. So it's been very, very interesting to watch that. And I want to be careful how I say this too, right? Because the people that are I'll just give an example. There's a management consulting firm we know that did do a layoff. They did a cut. And one of the gentlemen who stayed, I know really well, one of the guys who got let go interviewed with us. And it was interesting to just note the economic model of the person who interviewed with us was such that it wouldn't make sense for us to hire him at his current salary, right?
No.
So, there is a recession and there are cuts, but when you're cut, maybe it's because the value you were bringing wasn't at the level of your salary. Like, I hate to say that, but I have to look at myself every day in the mirror and make sure that I'm bringing in the value for this business every freaking day. So I don't think that there is a glutton of talent out there. I think there's people that are available for sure, but I think those people need to take more responsibility, like I did when I basically got let go from my last company, to say, what can I do to be more valuable in the market, refine the skills, build more capability so that you can go and be more marketable. I mean, what do you think? We also run our HR group.
I mean, from the viewpoint of what we do to help our clients, I feel like, we tell our clients, because this is how it goes in their selections, is that the vendors, I mean, all the products could probably do the job at the end of the day if you needed it to. I mean, there's obviously some that are much better for your company and industry, but the right implementation partner is such a key part. And I feel like that's such the value that we bring as we uncover the right implementation partners that have more than just one skilled person there to do the project, that they have a track record and they have a team, and that our clients can't find those implementation partners on their own. So if it was so easy to just build a great implementation team, there wouldn't be failed implementations, because the products do the job, but somebody has to know how to set it up. So I think that's not going to, that's not going to just magically resolve, even if there's a recession.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, for those that are out there, I'd say, look at our site. There's so much you can learn about ERP just from reading our site. You guys, all of you put so much great content out there that the more valuable you make yourself, the more you are going to be more marketable in the market. That's just the way it works. But you look at an implementation partner, and, every organization has stars and other folks and whatever. The problem is the stars are wicked super busy because there's so many projects. So it's kind of a reverse vector kind of a viewpoint that I have, because I have to deal with it all the time, where we select an implementation partner and the key person that we picked went over to another partner. Well, why did they do that? Because they could make more over there, right? Well, now we went with that partner. What do we do now, right? So it's definitely a good question, but interesting.
And then lastly,
Oh.
is best of breed expanding or shrinking integration and maintenance?
Yeah, holy mackerel. Yeah, so the question was, is best of breed expanding or shrinking, and the integrations are daunting, which is very, very, very true. And it's, again, I really try to look at what's real, and anybody who offers a viewpoint of best of breed is the way, or all in one is the way, right? We always say hybrid is the way, is just lying. Like, they're not being truthful, because, we're in 40 organizations right now, and each one of them has an evolution on technology that you have to look at where they've been and where they're going to figure out what is best. So we're in an organization right now, global, and no best of breed. We don't want to have the total cost of ownership, the maintenance problems, the integration problems, like the person mentioned. We're not doing that. But what? Well, our operations guys really want blah software. Oh, okay. And our salespeople really want this, but we want an all-in-one solution. Okay, but there's two different solutions right there. So for finance, what do you guys want? Well, we really need all this stuff. Okay, well, let's try to get the solutions that the other two departments are using. And if we can't, we may have to go a third. And by the way, supply chain may need something different, and international manufacturing may need something completely different. PLM is going to come from an industry best of breed. I was like, wow, we just ended up with best of breed. We didn't want that, but we just got it. So, you can set the goals out there, and you need to say, hey, theoretically, this is what we want to do, but you do have to look at what's best for the organization, and then plan. And no, don't just pretend like the integrations aren't going to be a problem for a best of breed solution. Like, you have to have a great integration strategy if you're going to go best of breed. And unlike one of the clients we're in right now that we're hoping to go live in May, we just made the integration decision finally. I don't know if we're going to make it, because the integrations, it takes a long time to spin up those platforms, get the right resources. They're busy. Oh, we need to move customers from the CRM over to the field services app. That's easy. We've done that a million times. No, you haven't. Like, inevitably, there's something that comes up that's so tricky. So, best of breed does have those integration risks, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. Good.
Well, thank you both for your time and your insights. Please let us know if we can answer any questions that you have. We're happy to help in any way we can. Be sure to join us for our next webinar, a free CPE event scheduled for Thursday, February 9th, titled Revolutionizing Financial Operations with the Right Business Intelligence and Analytics Tools. Shawn will provide CFOs and other senior financial executives with a methodology for identifying and selecting the right BI and analytics tools for their needs. Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equate to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.